It's 10 p.m. Your baby was supposed to be asleep 2 hours ago. Every attempt to put them down makes things worse. If that sounds familiar, you should know this isn't a sleep failure. It's a state mismatch. By now, you've already run through the checklist. Hungry? Fed. Diaper? Changed. Gas? Addressed. Nothing worked, and your baby looks so tired. But tiredness alone doesn't determine whether or not sleep can actually happen. There are two different biological systems involved in sleep. This is why a baby can look exhausted and still fight sleep. The first is sleep pressure. Sleep pressure builds as baby stays awake, largely driven by adenosine accumulating in the brain. Adenosine increases the biological need for sleep. In other words, it answers the question, does the body need sleep? But sleep onset depends on a second system as well. Sleep requires autonomic downregulation, a shift toward parasympathetic dominance, or the low arousal state that supports rest, digest, and sleep. That system answers a different question. Can the nervous system enter sleep right now? This is the piece that parents are usually missing, and those two answers don't always line up. A baby can be biologically tired and still physiologically unable to sleep. So what does crying actually tell us? Crying is obviously not a neutral signal. Physiologically, crying reflects elevated sympathetic nervous system activity. The heart rate increases, breathing becomes irregular, muscle tone rises. That state is incompatible with the initiation of sleep. Sleep onset requires slower breathing, reduced muscle tone, and coordinated autonomic shifts. Crying tells us those systems are already activated in the opposite direction. So we often hear the terms overtired and overstimulated applied in these situations. Overtiredness refers to high sleep pressure. Adenosine is elevated and the body needs sleep. On its own, high sleep pressure supports sleep, but it also reduces the nervous system's margin for regulation. Overstimulation refers to exceeded regulatory capacity. Sensory input, handling, feeding, and emotional effort all draw from an immature nervous system. When that system is overloaded, the flexibility drops. State transitions, including sleep, become harder. A baby can be tired and overstimulated at the same time. Overtiredness increases vulnerability, but overstimulation blocks access to sleep. That's why sleep pressure alone doesn't explain bedtime battles. When you push sleep in a dysregulated state, you are unintentionally adding demand. More handling, more transitions, more expectation for coordination. That added demand increases sympathetic activation at the exact moment when sympathetic activity needs to be decreasing for sleep to initiate. So even though adenosine is high, even though the baby truly needs sleep, the nervous system just can't access it. That's why bedtime routines can escalate crying instead of calming it, especially later in the day. So if sleep pressure was the primary issue, increased sleep opportunity would reduce the distress. When attempts at sleep reliably increase distress, the limiting factor isn't tiredness. It's state, and pushing sleep makes that worse. So the most useful question often isn't, how do I get my baby to sleep? It's, is my baby's nervous system in a state where sleep is even possible right now? And when it isn't, pushing sleep adds demand instead of helping. What we need to do is help the system downshift first. I explore some tools for helping your baby downshift in my witching hour video if you'd like to go deeper.